Every serious body of work disrupts something. Something shifts. Something feels ruffled, feels uncomfortable. I want you to think about Bad Bunny and the Benito Bowl that we just experienced. And what I want to call out is how much that points to the disruption, not just that Bad Bunny interrupts, that he stands for, but remember, this was brought forward by Rock Nation and Jay-Z. And when I think about that level of cultural disruption of, oh, I know that this is the NFL, and I know that your expectation is that you're going to be entertained. Oh, honey, we're going to entertain you. But while we're at it, we're going to give you the most disruptive entertainment, honestly, that's happened in pop culture for such a hot minute. You're listening to Madam Speaker Says, your no-fluff cheat code to becoming the voice everyone listens to. I'm your host, Magogodi. If you've been waiting for a permission slip to straighten your crown and take up space like you invented the blueprint, Madam Speaker Says got you covered. No whispers, no apologies, just you, me, and some bold-ass moves. Let's get into it. Welcome. You are listening to Madam Speaker Says. I am your host. I'm Magogodi. On these mini delicious episodes that are solo, this is just you and me calling out a lot of things that it's not just you, right? I'm in the same seat. I'm calling out the things that I see me doing that I'm like, yo, we really got to stop this. And on this particular episode, I'm going to come at you because I know, like me, you have a really huge heart. And it's not just like vibes, right? It's strategic. You're an impact leader. So you're not just thinking about who you are and what you do and your work and your visibility as like me, and ego. Listen, we all love the things that come with like being paid well and getting recognized for your work. But if you're on this episode, that you understand that the work that we're doing is for causes and for impact and touching people's lives, that's bigger than our own little self. We are a vessel and we are being used by something higher. I mean, for me, it's my ancestors. They are speaking through me, even in this medium, even on this particular podcast. The voices in my head that I want to be the loudest, that I want to listen to, are my ancestors. And what are they telling me right now? They're telling me we need to be focused. Yo, we need to be so focused, because one of the things that we're really good at doing is making our language and our messaging and our voices broad. And by the way, we do this because it's a calculated thing, so that we don't make other people uncomfortable. And because we know when we make other people uncomfortable, they're coming for us, right? There's an episode that I did earlier that is about visibility and the cost of visibility and why you're so smart. Your head, like your reptilian head, is like, keep your head down, keep your head down. Because if you stick your neck out, that neck, somebody's going to come for it. Well, in this particular episode, we're going to talk about how to get your neck out. Put your neck out, okay? Put that neck out. What do I mean by this? You need to stop being the person who uses broad language about who you serve, what you're here to do, and the impact of your work. And you need to narrow all the way down. And when you do this, when you're really sharp about not only the problem that you're solving, but who you're solving that problem for, that is political. That is political, and your work becomes political. Why? Because after you name those two things that I just mentioned, you also have to name who benefits. Like, who benefits from both the status quo and the way that you're changing how life and the system will be. By changing the system, who will benefit? You are also calling out who maintains the current status quo, right? Who's benefiting now, in other words. And you also have to call out who is resisting change and how are you strategically going to co-opt that particular person into changing either with you or doing some kind of jiu-jitsu moves. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you understand how I'm asking you to do really difficult things, but my friend, I want to be really clear. I'm not asking you to do this alone. Number one, I told you from jump, my hand is raised. I'm doing this work in real time too. Okay. So this is not some kind of show where I'm over here preaching to you like, oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. I'm not nobody's school teacher. I'm just here sharing the notes. You're sitting next to me in class, and here's the notes. Like, I'm going to allow you to crib from what I'm learning in real time. So if you're ready, if you're the kind of person who understands that shifting from, let's say, saying something like, I help women to find their voice, to saying instead, I sharpen women who dismantle white supremacist leadership norms inside of institutions. Can you go back and forth between those things? There's the first example, which is I help women find their voice, versus I help sharpen women who dismantle white supremacist leadership norms inside of institutions. Those are so different in terms of calling out the thing that is making other people, quite frankly, uncomfortable, right? The first is like, oh, that's nice, how cute. But the second is like, oh, she dangerous. I want you to become dangerous. Because why do we want to do this? That kind of clarity, it exposes power structures. And you already know this. You know that it's going to expose power structures. And because you know this, you soften your language, right? That's like that part of your brain that is fear, essentially speaking, and being like, how can I protect her? Because what she's trying to take us on this mission, that's going to put us out. And I'm saying, actually, respect the fear, but understand that if you don't do this, there is a cost. What is the cost? The cost is you lose authority, okay? You lose your edge because authority really comes from taking a position that is at the edge where everybody else is just catching up to you. That's what an author, that's what like somebody who is an author, somebody who like is an author of destiny, basically. To be an author of destiny, you have to be at the ledge. You can't be back there at the very back, like in the safeguard of like you're safe, inside of the crowd. You have to be at the bleeding edge. You also don't have a thesis. Like if you're willing to just be broad and serve everybody, like I'm here for everybody and making everybody feel comfortable, well, that's not a thesis. That's not something that's like we can sink our teeth into and understand clearly what is this work shifting that this woman is proposing. What is it that she does that hasn't existed before, or maybe it hasn't existed for these particular people before? That kind of danger and that heat, that is where authority lives. So if you're not doing this, it's costing you your authority. If you're not doing this, it is going to cost you visibility. And we spoke about visibility just a moment ago. Again, I want to point you to that podcast was fire. Okay, let me just tell you something. That podcast was fire. And I heard feedback from people who've been in the game for a really long time. And they're like, girl, you snatched all my edges. So if you haven't listened to it, go back, go into the podcast log and look for the podcast that was about visibility. The thing is, if you don't have visibility, you're not getting the media calls that I know that your work deserves, right? And media doesn't respond to things that are like, oh, this happened already and they already covered it. Like they don't care that like your colleague did this 5 years. Yeah, when your colleague did it, it was a big deal then. It's not a big deal anymore, okay? So you need to lead with something that is fresh, something that is worthy of attention. And when you don't do that, you're going to lose your work, is going to lose the kind of visibility and eyeballs that take your work further, that deepen the impact of your work. I wanted to go on a tangent, and it's a really good tangent. Fawn Weaver has a background as a PR agent. She started her own agency. And one of the things that she said is when she started Uncle Nearest, she understood the power of newness, the power of we are the biggest, right? And she built something like the biggest whiskey brewery in North America or something. I can't quite remember. But the power of that is because she's not dumb. She understands, first of all, this the way that her project is a political project. Let me tell you, her master distiller is a Black woman. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of whiskey making. Okay. And she's so clear about who she's serving, how she's serving, and how wisely she's serving, and also why that work deserves attention. Did you know, for example, Uncle Nearest, the recipe that they're using, that is a recipe that comes from the very first master distiller in the United States. That person was an enslaved, a formerly enslaved person, a formerly enslaved human being. That's who Uncle Nearest is named for. And the master distiller for Uncle Nearest is one of the descendants of Uncle Nearest himself. I mean, if that's not political, I don't know what. And what's smart about Fawn is she's not out here like shouting and getting really loud about like, oh, this is politics. You should da da da. She's out here being strategic about how do I get this project to get the kind of attention it deserves. And she's not going to leave that on the table. And neither should you. Your work is important. Your work has impact and impact beyond just this generation, right? If you are serious about your impact leadership, in fact, we're looking at 7 generations forward, is how much disruption you are going to bring to the game. That deserves attention. We don't want you to lose that attention. What else does it cost? If you're not clear, you're also costing leverage, because when you're not crisp with your language, the default language wins. And the default language right now, what's happening, if you're paying attention, is so dangerous. We're rolling back time. At least some forces want to, the powers that be want to roll back time to the good old 1950s, when certain people knew their place. I'm using air quotations here. When certain genders didn't even exist as something, never mind genders. You couldn't be gay out in public in the 1950s. Okay. It was called sodomy laws. There were sodomy laws out against people. Some people, some crazy nutbags out here are trying to roll us back to that time. When you refuse to be clear about who you're here for, what you are here to do, you're giving them that leverage of their language winning, because you're broad. You're like, you're an open tent. Everybody's welcome. And I'm glad that everybody is welcome, but we need to get really crisp about what we're talking about. The other thing that this will cost you, and this comes at deep mental health level, and it can show up in so many different ways, is when you're not willing to be narrow and specific, it is going to show up as a cost of self-integrity, because you're creating a distance between what you say you believe privately and out there publicly, this big tent that you're creating that's super broad and super for everybody, and like using impotent language, like I help women find their voice. That's not helping anybody, okay? And it's definitely not helping you sleep, because that like just, I just help any old woman find their voice. Oh, really? You know what? I'm not even gonna go there because I was gonna name very specific names, like an Ivanka, for example. Is that who you help to find their voice or to elevate their voice? I'm not saying she needs her voice found, because like it's a little bit too much voice found over there. But I'm just saying, when you use broad language like that, like you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you're not being honest with yourself. And when you're not honest with yourself and you create cognitive dissonance inside, guess what? The body catches up. Like that lives somewhere inside of you, because you're causing this internal friction. How do we get past this? I'm glad you asked. I have some tools for you. The opposition test. Every serious body of work disrupts something. Something shifts. Something feels ruffled, feels uncomfortable. I want you to think about Bad Bunny and the Benito Bowl that we just experienced, right? I mean, like the levels of like how epic and beautiful and joyous, and well, in Spanish it was. Na 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 la la la. I love that song. That was such an iconic moment. I want to talk about how uncomfortable people were long before this guy even stood on the arena in the stadium. Oh my God, I can't believe this in America, and it's gonna be all in Spanish. And like, what are our babies gonna have to like listen to Spanish? And people were losing their minds, okay? Like the panties were in so much of a bunch around, I cannot believe that this is happening. And what I want to call out is how much that points to the disruption, not just that Bad Bunny interrupts, right? Like that he stands for. But remember, this was brought forward by Rock Nation and Jay-Z. And when I think about that level of cultural disruption, of oh, I know that this is the NFL, and I know that your expectation is that you're going to be entertained. Oh, honey, we're going to entertain you. But while we're at it, we're going to give you the most disruptive entertainment, honestly, that's happened in pop culture for such a hot minute, right? And in this particular political climate, when Minneapolis is happening, when ICE is raiding the very neighborhoods that this man is getting on stage to celebrate, I want you to think about how disruptive that is. Just think about that. And I want you to think about a body of work. And here again, I'm thinking about Rock Nation as an entity that is in charge of all of the entertainment for the NFL at halftime, and within their body of work, how disruptive this is. And I want you to ask yourself, if your work doesn't have that level of disruption, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing for the culture? You know what I'm saying? I mean, our scales are always going to be different because we're running our own races. I'm not Jay-Z, you're not Jay-Z. I mean, like, let me be real. Like, what I would give to experience half a second as Bad Bunny Benito in the middle of the Super Bowl, what I would give for that to just have my application as an honorary Puerto Rican approved in this particular moment, okay? What I would give for that, but like, I'm not those people, and I'm not trying to run that race. I have my own race to run. And applying from that example, the thing that is salient, which is how do you disrupt the status quo? And how does your work, your art, your message, your mission, how does that interrupt something that needs to be interrupted, right? What I want you to ask yourself is, what systems does my work challenge? One of the things that I will forever take away is when Benito was being challenged about like, oh my God, is it all going to be in Spanish? First of all, calm down, sit down. It wasn't all in Spanish, okay? Lady Gaga was on stage, and the last time I checked, she was singing in English. But, I digress. My point is, what systems does his work challenge? I want you to think about how much this particular person disrupted this idea that North America is, or America is XYZ. Like, first of all, and here's what I was getting to, before he even stepped on stage and people were like, oh my God, you don't speak English. It's just going to like mess with me that I have to sit here and listen to an entire halftime in Spanish. He was like, okay, I hear you, but English is not America's first language. Let's just go there. And I'm not asking you to learn Spanish. I'm just asking you to learn how to dance. I mean, like if that's not a total mic drop moment, right? He is challenging, I mean, centuries of slavery, of history that is oppressive, of ideas about who gets to be, who gets to belong, whose language gets to be, whose language gets to be seen and celebrated. But he's saying it in such a playful and beautiful and actually, at the end of the day, inclusive way without being broad, by sticking to his guns of like, no, we're going to be really narrow and very specific. And this show is going to be in Spanish and you're going to love it. And let me tell you, I ate up every single little moment. I loved it. I loved it so, so much. So I want you to do the same. Take from that the question, ask yourself, what systems does my work challenge? What narrative does your work rewrite? I just listed all of the ways that this man is in real time rewriting the narrative. I mean, a really fantastic one for me is like the sugar canes that he opened up with. And the sugar canes were human sugar canes, which is like so metaphoric on so many different levels. Because if you know anything about the history of slavery, you understand that in the Caribbean was actually the most vicious, violent, and deathly form of slavery. People who were enslaved in there, their life expectancy was something absurd. Like they lived only until about 30. I mean, like it was bananas. And the calculation that the people who owned the plantations made was it's cheaper for them to keep bringing in fresh Africans from the continent to replace the ones who were dying on the field than to actually allow these people decent life. Okay, I'm going to get off my TED stage now because I've done research on this and this really gets it gets my blood boiling, okay? And it's part of why I'm doing the work that I'm doing and why it excites me. And I need you to understand, I really need you to understand, like if you can disrupt that kind of narrative around, we're talking about sugar canes. He took this imagery of sugar canes and sugar fields and what enslavement meant on the island of Puerto Rico, but writ large through the Caribbean, writ large, even larger than that, through all of North America, and made it symbolically. Again, the metaphor is so deep that these are human beings. Like the actual production that they did during the Benito Bowl, it was human beings who were holding up like the canes, right? And it was a smart thing production wise because then they could create the set really quickly on the stage, turning the stadium into a set because people can run quicker than bringing in equipment. But just at the level of like intellectualness, and just stay with me here, I'm a deep nerd, so here I'm just geeking out. The level of like, we're going to disrupt that, like we're going to use that as a really powerful metaphor for this thing that is a big narrative around enslaved people, and then celebrate that. That's the changing, the rewriting the narrative, right? I just told you that the history behind this is so powerful and also quite painful. And here's this man coming in to rewrite the narrative in a way that is so imaginative, so full of life, so joyful. So I see you. I see you. I don't know that there's anybody who was in the Caribbean who didn't see that and doesn't have a way in. The sombreros, the hats that people were wearing. It was like, these are the hats that workers were using in Puerto Rico. And now they've become like cool to wear, right? Again, rewriting the narrative. Ask yourself, how does your work rewrite the narrative? Especially powerful if you can ask yourself, how does your work rewrite the narrative in a way that would make your ancestors proud, in a way that would reimagine the things that were wrong that happened when your ancestors were here, that they would be like, we knew we sent her there for something. Okay, we knew this was our MVP. I need you to answer that for yourself. If your answer to these two questions, what systems does my work challenge and what narrative does my work rewrite? If your answer is nothing, then that is your problem, because authority comes from friction. It comes from contrast. And if you need any evidence that what I'm saying is a thing, go and watch Benito Ball, and also take out, really go and research all of the data of even day of the people who were talking nonsense, the people who reviewed and had like bizarre things to say. There was friction there. There was actually challenge there. There was also rewriting a narrative there. Okay. You totally get. I have very strong feelings about Benito. Wow. This is 100% a Bad Bunny household, okay? But number two tool that I want to offer you is The 8-word thesis challenge. I love this. I love this. The writer in me, of course, is like, this is tea. I want you to understand that if you can't say it, what your thesis is in 8 to 10 words, you're probably hiding. You're hiding. Say it in 8 to 10 words and say it so that a fifth grader or a 5-year-old use words that a 5-year-old can understand. And if you can't do that, I'm sorry, it's not technically complicated. It's just that you are hiding, and you're probably hiding behind like trying to make it as broad and palatable as possible. If you want precision, which is what we want, we don't want a personal manifesto. We're not going for vibes, okay? So we're going for the most precise way to describe your thesis in 8 to 10 words. Let me give you some examples. And I need you to fill in the blank, okay? I dismantle X inside of Y. Maybe Benito Bo could say, I dismantle racism inside of the NFL. That could be one. A second example, I help A to disrupt B. I help A to disrupt B. And the third one, I replace X with Y. I love this one because sometimes when we're thinking about challenging a narrative, when we're thinking about disrupting power, we think only about anti, being against. And this forces you to be really clear about what you are for. So if you think again of our example with Benito Bowl, and think about the mood, especially of the United States before he stepped on that stage. Think about the raids that ICE was conducting in Minneapolis. Think about his acceptance speech at the Grammys and how powerfully he spoke to love, which was one of the huge billboards during the Super Bowl. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. I replace hate and bigotry and white supremacy and fascism with love and joy. I mean, that is like the blueprint of what he did, right? And I want you to think about that and own it for yourself. How can you take these sentences and make them applicable to your own work? If your sentence would make a university brochure look good, if you could plug whatever sentence you come out with from these exercises and stick it on a university brochure, and you look good, it's not sharp enough. And it's just not doing the work yet that it needs to do. What I need you to ask yourself is, would this statement that you come out with, would it make somebody who is holding power a little bit uncomfortable? Does it make anybody uncomfortable? And if it does, good. Okay, tool number 3. And this is your math problem, all right? Because staying broad might feel safe. I know that's why your reptilian brain that's all geared around fear is like, no, please don't do this. Give her a breather, like breathe into her and say, thank you so much. I appreciate the information, but we're going to get quantitative around what it's costing you so that you also have data to point at her to be like, girl, actually, like, this isn't even a strategic move anymore. Like, I don't know why I would stay super broad and believe that that makes me safe. It also doesn't make you safe. Number 1, I want you to write down which rooms are you not being invited into right now with your broad ass self and statement. Which rooms are you not being invited into? Number 2, which media opportunities is your work missing out on? Name maybe like 3 or 4 places where you know if your work got a spotlight from those media bigwigs or even medium ways, it could be like a local paper. If you got spotlight from them, then it could be a game changer for you. Write that down. Number 3, which clients are you currently not attracting? And you know that if you spoke to them directly and called them by their name, you actually would be able to serve them. Write down that answer? Which clients are you not attracting? The real loss is if someone who believes in you, someone who is a cheerleader, cannot say, oh, I love this person and you should consider her for this next thing because she's known for, and they fill out the blank, right, of what you're known for. And the way that you help that person do that, to be able to refer you to others, is by helping them hold on to what you're doing, where it's something that has like a little, like some teeth, it needs some friction. And if you go through the exercises that we just laid out, these are the things that are going to make you memorable. Go back to Fawn Weaver and how smart she was in understanding, in order to market Uncle Nearest, I need to think outside of the box for the things that are going to attract attention and eyeballs and clients. I need you to do the same thing, okay? Now, I want you to remember this. If you're not clearly naming power, the who and the what that you are disrupting, you're actually reinforcing that power. Ouch. I know, I know, I know, I know. It hurts just a little bit. Cackling, laughing, and also drinking my water at the same time. Mind my business and drinking my water, and also just laying it out like it is, because it's true. If you're not clearly naming power, whose power? What kind of power are you actually disrupting? If you're not clearly naming that, you are helping that power stay in a position of power. And you know that that's not right, because you already understand that a disruption is necessary, right? That's part of why you're doing this work. Okay, staying broad is going to cost you. It costs already your authority, your integrity, and also it costs not changing the thing that you know has to change. Imagine if Benito had said, yeah, okay, maybe I'll start singing in Spanish because, it will make everybody just feel a little bit more comfortable. Fam, the amount of authority he would have lost, because his fans know him and would have been like, I would have been like, dude, okay, I got my application to be an honorary Puerto Rican, Boricua over here, and you messing this up for all of us, okay? Your authority, his authority would have looked shook. His integrity would have looked shook. And he would not have gone anywhere close to the seismic cultural moment that we just experienced. And what it means, not just for the United States, but the entirety of the real America, the thing that he lists out at the very end. I mean, one of my favorite moments of Benito Ball, just to bring it all full circle, where he's like, God bless America. And who is America? Chile, Argentina, Belize. I think Belize got left out, by the way. America, Canada. And my own home country, mi padre, mi madreland, Puerto Rico. Okay, you cannot change what you won't name. You cannot change what you will not name. So by staying broad, you do nobody any favors. And you can do this in Spanish, you can do it in English, but I need you to name the thing that needs to be changed. And to be sharp, to sharpen your message, to name the thing that you are trying to change, it's not about getting louder. Look at, again, go back to Benito Ball. Yes, it was loud because like, hello, speakers, and the drama of like a show, right? But he wasn't loud in that way that the opposition expected, that he's going to come over here and like talk trash about certain people. No, honey, no, he didn't do it that way. Instead, he was exact. Instead, he was precise. Instead, he told you exactly who this is for and whose power he's here to disrupt. If you're interested in that, if you're serious about that, what you need is not to get louder. What you need is a partner who will hold you accountable and make it joyful the entire time, and who will bring full on Bad Bunny vibes, like definitely working with me. It feels like, okay, it feels like halftime when Bad Bunny is performing, and maybe I'm overselling my ability to both dance and also my Spanish abilities, but I'm not underselling you on the promise of joy, on the promise of partnership, on the promise of being seen, on the promise of actually disrupting some shit, ruffling some feathers in order to have the impact that I know your work deserves. I am Magogodi. If you're interested in working with me around this particular stuff, I am a strategist around it. My DMs are open, and I'm the host of Madam Speaker Says. I'll see you next week.
Hey, pull up. Just you and me for a second. Are you an exec, a founder, or an entrepreneur who's sick of shrinking in rooms you're overqualified to lead? It's time to stop playing small and start owning your expertise. But how, Magogodi? Girl, I got you. I offer coaching that helps women of color just like you to claim your place as a thought leader. Whether you want to command a room, craft and share your signature story, or finally get that book out of your head and onto bookshelves, I've got the strategy and spicy accountability that you need. If you're tired of seeing less qualified folks shine while you stay behind the scenes, girl, the wait list is open. Follow the link in show notes to stop waiting for permission and claim your VIP spot now. My mission? Helping women just like you to snatch the spotlight, shake the table, and take your damn seat at the top already. No begging, no detours, and nope, no apologies. Just bold ass moves.